watering. So I talked a little bit about what it is like to underwater, which is not watering the plants enough and having them dry out in the hot Colorado sun. Another issue can be in the other direction, overwatering. So that is saturating the soil so much that the plants are rotting or drowning or kind of wilting from too much water. It depends on the plant, but a lot of plants just need a specific amount of water, and so just learning, and a lot of gardening is noticing. So looking at the plant, noticing what it looks like when it's healthy and unhealthy, and then just kind of taking a pause and maybe looking something up or asking a question before trying to diagnose and provide an answer. Because a lot of times a plant might look like it's wilting. They'll often wilt in the middle of the day. That's a way that they conserve energy. And it'll look like it's wilting and it'll look like the solution is more water, but actually it just needs to be left alone and watered later in the evening. So just seeing and observing the garden with yourself and with the kids. Let's see, what else were we going to talk about? Another thing is weeding. So you'll see in the pathways, there are looks like some clover that's growing. A lot of the things that we consider weeds aren't necessarily bad plants, but if they're growing in your garden beds, they can take nutrients away from the plants that you're trying to grow. And if they're in the pathways, they can be a harbor for insects and pests that you don't want in the garden. So it's good to try and maintain the pathways as much as possible to make sure that the garden beds stay clean and pest-free. This can also be a fun activity to do with the kids because it's pretty low stakes. You just pull out the weeds. When you're weeding, the paths, you want to try and pull the weed out by the roots, sometimes using a tool like this garden fork can be helpful to kind of to loosen the soil around the plant and then pull it out. And so yeah, weeding by the roots is really the only effective weeding. If you're just pulling off the leaves, then it's just gonna grow back. So as you see here, I pulled out the whole reed. It's got a bunch of roots on it, and that means it probably won't grow back for a while, and then just covering the gravel back up. Also getting some more gravel can be a way to kind of mitigate weed pressure. And then you'll also see weeds growing in the beds. So again, it's helpful to look up the plants that have been planted and know what they look like at all stages of their growth so that you'll know what are weeds and what are the plants that you like in the garden. If you're transplanting, it's much easier to tell because the plants are already established before you put them in the ground. So transplanting is when you have a seedling and you dig a hole and plant the seedling in the ground, whereas direct sowing is sowing seeds, which can take up to 2 weeks to germinate with consistent watering. And then when they grow, they're very small and they sometimes look like weeds. So learning what they look like and how they grow and how long it takes for them to sprout is a pretty helpful tool. And then the garden can be a place for kids to explore and learn at all points of the year. It's a place for them to engage with their hands. They can engage with Jewish learning because the Jewish calendar is very much synced up with the agricultural calendar, and so every point in the year there's something to learn about Judaism and about how we relate to our planet. And it's fun. It's a way for them to be creative. Something nice can be maybe coming out and seeing what could be done in the garden, maybe some weeding, maybe some picking of fruit, maybe pulling up, like pruning. Well, probably don't prune back plants with the kids, but maybe making signs for the garden, or maybe singing a song. And so it's also nice to have a list of activities and allow the children to pick what seems most exciting to them, because the garden has so many opportunities and it really can be a space for empowering kids to learn and engage.